Hello, test test. All right, we're live. I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna be honest. I'm not sure how long I'm gonna be streaming for. A plan is pretty much I'm gonna play this game. I tried it out earlier, but I wanted to just do a playthrough on stream. No particular reason, just to do it. Um, Wanted to talk, hang out. Probably be less than an hour stream. Probably gonna eat my dinner and be muted for a bit of it, but I'm here. Wanted to stream. That'd be fun. um Wanted to stay, on its own. It looks good right now. Tomorrow I'll be 24. I feel old. I keep saying that. I'm not really that old. But if you're in my Discord below, if you're interested, I know how many bots just ask for me to add them. I'm not gonna. I'll add you, but like, join Discord. Jeez, I'm not gonna add you. I know you're like a fake person. Yeah, right. But my main point is, if you're in the Discord and see it, tomorrow is gonna be a stream. To be honest, I have no idea when I'm gonna be streaming, but I want to stream tomorrow, so I'm going to say I'm gonna stream around 3 in the afternoon Central Time. I think it translates. It's after I have to do some stuff in the early afternoon, so I decided to just do it around there. Be 3 for an hour and a half, 2 hours. We're gonna be able to play probably a lot of games. I'm probably gonna stream. I personally don't know how late I'm gonna go. That's why I said at least an hour and a half. My goal tomorrow is I want to play a handful of games. I might make it a backlog kind of stream where I finally get to play through some games that I want to play, but I just been picking up here and there. And, maybe we should just stream it and get it over with. I don't know. That's why I'm saying if you get any games you want me to play, I'll get them if they're reasonable, right? So I'm just gonna play through a lot of games tomorrow. I even replay through CNR2 because I never did finish that on stream. Though to be fair, Cash even talked to me about it a while back that it's actually it's bugged. So we might have to do some things to actually get there. But tomorrow's gonna be a stream, and it's gonna be just a vibe. We're gonna be vibing. I'm gonna be another year older. I'm gonna be old. Yeah. I think last month was August. Last month was my affiliate anniversary though. I did something for that. But it was also my channel anniversary. It was earlier that month. But I already did something for that, but you know. There's also a lot of birthdays this month. It's a vibe. It's a vibe, guys. But yeah, this is the game we're gonna be playing. Just to clarify, this is Mario on the PS4, or I'm saying on the PS5. If in fact you're probably seeing the streams in 1440p right now. Although to be fair, there's no reason. I don't even think I'm streaming this in 1440. I don't even think my PlayStation is playing in 1440p right now. I think it's in 1080p. No, it's 4K. This is 4K downset. Let's go to 1440p, I think, because my capture card doesn't support 1440p. I think it might, but I haven't checked. I'm streaming 1440p. Doesn't really make a difference. I usually just play in 1480p. So I think the only reason I'm streaming in 1440p at night, guys, is for the Switch I don't see a lot of people streaming 1440p. Now, to be fair, it literally takes out like 20,000 bit rate, so I don't think most people should. But if I have the option, it works, But this is Super Mario. What was the What was the name of this game? Oh, yeah, the wipe. Super Mario Heartless Stars Remake Beta. It's a James game when it has the beta and the remake in it. I believe I played the original version of this game a long time ago. I don't remember when or even if I did, but I remember playing this. I remember part of this game. There's a lot of Mario games, but Mario and Dreams is like Sonic and Dreams, but slightly worse because Sonic game is more. There's about the same amount. The Sonic games have been more, you know, Mario, the dreams of the new platform a lot. For me, if you do experience my project, you'll see that I'm working on with a lot of other people. It's fan game. It really is a big thing that's treating itself like a fan game. It's for like fan game piece. Some development towards the team's been developing but nevertheless, that's not why we're here. We're here to play some Mario on the PS4. This was made by Deadshot Laser, other folks. Great. From what I played, it's pretty good. Well, I'll be honest, I have some concerns about it. I will turn down the audio, I guess. Thank you for letting me let me do that. Test. Okay, I think that's a little better. It might just be the game. I'll turn it down a bit more. If it's too quiet, we can work with it. But welcome on SMP fan. Thank you for the lyric. I know it's late. Hold on. Test. Test. Alright, I think that's better. I don't know, it's probably the game's audio. It's kind of off, to be honest. It's fine, but it is a little off. But yeah, thank you for the alert. If you're here, or you need a lurk, I get it. But yeah, I was just explaining what this game is. It's by Deadshot Laser. It's that one Mario game that you might see Game Explain playing. You know, Game Explain people, for the long time. Yeah, I think it started around Mario Galaxy, actually, the original one on the Wii, if I remember correctly. There's other couple people, Nintendo kind of YouTuber sphere that play this game. They love it, but I also have my own. I don't know if they actually just say they love it just to be saying it. For YouTuber, that's actually weird. YouTube is weird nowadays. Just put random stuff I want to listen to on there. If other people like it, That's what I do on there. But then this is Mario Galaxy for Dreams. If Cash or anyone else is here from the CNR came out, I was talking to Cash a couple of days ago. The last stream when I was playing World in the morning, unexpected morning stream. I know, right? I don't think that's planetary gravity. I know Cash said he knows how good how we would do it if we, on the scenario we would. But this game looks like it has gravity of some kind. Though, I'm not sure if that's just a fixed camera. For a Dreams game, this is pretty nice. I'm gonna tell you, it's a good Mario game for Dreams. But the Mario one is very, I don't know, it has too much weight to him. I don't know if that makes sense. I haven't played any of the actual levels yet. Because honestly, it's kind of hard for me to control Mario personally, but it feels like Mario is heavier than he should be. And that says a lot, because Mario is pretty, I'm not fat shaming Mario, guys, but Mario is pretty heavy, I guess. Like, Team 4 just too heavy. So it just feels like there's too much weight, like, in the controller itself. And the controllers aren't sensitive enough. But to be fair, this Mario might have been based off another person's. I don't know yet. Honestly, I need to check if the laser actually made this Mario, or if it's based on something else, or like adapted. Because you know how Dreamers can remake stuff. But this Mario isn't like as bad as the typical Mario 2021 Mario kind of models, like, you know, like how Sans was on here. He looked like derpy as hell, right? He's actually he feels way better than those kind of models. But I would rather have my Mario be more sensitive and more floaty than how heavy this is. It's not bad, it's just, it's in my kind of cup of tea. I think there's a comment in this game. I'll need to look this up real quick. There was a comment here, I think, somewhere that says the controls are janky, but the actual game itself is pretty good. Because the controls aren't terrible, but I personally don't like them as much. But the level design and the graphics, how like the game like handles the presence and stuff, and the level design is actually pretty good. That's the thing, is the level design and the game itself is good, but I feel like the controls and the gameplay, how Mario feels, is still slightly off. But to his credit, Deathshot Laser's credit, from someone that, you know, from working on games like that, it seems pretty dang nabbit hard. I was gonna say that, by the way. I said that. It seems pretty hard to get a functional Mario in Dreams. Like, actually, like, you feel like, it feels like Mario Galaxy Mario. So, he got really close. Like, for what it's worth, it's really close. But it isn't quite there. If he was trying to get to like a Mario Galaxy control set. That's not bad. I think this game is really good. It looks really nice. Like, really nice for it being for a James game. Though, I think everything but Mario wouldn't, if you replaced the Mario with like a, with the version of like an upscaled, maybe 3D All-Star Mario Galaxy, Mario from that port, if he would fit in this. That's the thing, is I think everything but the Mario in this is like spot on. But I don't know if he actually made this Mario, or if how he first is Mario. I don't know if I said Mario. That was like me saying model and Mario in the same word. Mario. But yeah, yeah. But that's not like initial thoughts. You won't really know until it's one of those games that look nice, but I think you have to play it for yourself. And you can if you have Dreams. It's completely free if you have Dreams, which is, Dreams is like $10. So in theory, you're just paying $10 for this game. Nintendo, don't DMCM, because this is, because you're paying for it. You're not just paying for this game, you're paying for all the games, including Cop Cop, CNR1, CNR2, the CNR3 prototypes. Oh, and CNR3 whenever that comes out. You know, we're working on it. Don't worry, we're working on it. But yeah, I got 4 levels here. Got enough killing time. Oh, okay, we're 15 minutes in. This looks like the Mario movie, Mushroom Kingdom. So I like how that looks so far. I did watch a video of all these levels, so to be honest, I know to some extent. So I guess in a way this is like, I don't know if this was a contention, but if the Mario movie has the levels from, I guess it's like a mix between Mario Odyssey, Mario Galaxy, and the Mario movie. Maybe like Super Nintendo World, I guess. Like, the Mario doesn't look bad, but he isn't Mario Galaxy. But also, the only reason I'm comparing it so much to Mario Galaxy is because it literally has the logo of Mario Galaxy. It has stars, which is Mario Galaxy motifs. Mario Galaxy motifs. And, and it has the same pretty much gameplay controller scheme of, not controller scheme of Mario Galaxy, but the movement set of Galaxy. Meaning, you'll spin, you get like you got the Luma pop out. Yeah. And I'm not saying that like this game is bad. Before, I know I said that before, but like I need to clarify this game. I'm not trying to be a critic in a bad way. I'm trying to be a critic from someone that played Mario Galaxy, 3D Land, 3D World, played the actual games, and when helping on an actual 3D platformer for dreams. You should see in our 3, the project name, if you didn't see it, does explain that. But also, there's a lot he did right, because Mario games don't. There's a lot of Mario games on dreams that are. I hate saying this because I feel like a lot of people try and they don't get there. Right? You gotta. In dreams itself, it's its own thing. In 2025, at least. A lot of games. My intention to be doing this, a lot of people might not. You know, there's a lot of dreams games like this though. There's a lot of games and dreams that that are like Quest for Cheese, where they kind of are good games because they're bad meme games, and that's all they. Some people don't want to be meme games, so they kind of like, I don't know, they try to be serious and they aren't, or they just aren't there. Because they act like they're Mario, like the Mario, like they're trying to be serious Mario games, like the Mario they just kind of ripped, or they actually tried, but it's just the Mario controllers are just too bad or floaty. But I don't know, it's just if they're like kids or what in these games. But I guess for what it's worth, dreams isn't really something you can make money on. There's a whole thing from my own personal experience because, well, I'm into development stuff. That's partly, you know, that's how I found Beta 64 originally, a lot of us. That's, you know, so it's like, you know, I might know more than the average person. Most of the people that might be making Mario games on here probably just want to make Mario just because it's Mario, or like, don't really know how the kind of stuff. So, you know, it's perfect for that, right? I know, I'm going deep in this. It's a Mario game. Let's just mess around. My point is, this is a great Mario game, but it's not perfect. People are gonna probably burn me now because of that arson. But it's arguably, I would like to say, the closest Mario game on the platform in terms of feeling. A lot of people say it is just like a real Mario game, and to them, I can see it. This is like technically, I can see Nintendo graphically making this, though the Mario in this isn't how I would. I guess like, yeah, like it isn't one-on-one, but that's because it's streams. It's pretty fun. Yeah, I like it. Though I'm unsure if this is a open world or a linear world, actually, because this level seems to have red coins and star pieces, but the level doesn't seem open. So are you supposed to backtrack? That's what I'm unsure about. Is I like the levels, but I'm scared. I never played the level yet. This is my blind reactions, I guess. And also there's seemingly no way for you to see what actual, like, if there's any collectibles. Is there actually like stars or like shines? Like if I went on my way to collect all the red coins, what would I get? An item? Or are you just supposed to get to the end? Which is fine. I think that's fine. There's a lot of small things I do appreciate in this game, and that is the use of paint to make it translucent. And it's quite obvious that this might have been a scope and they just like made it into paint. But hey, you have the tool. I say go for it. And then we can make it work. And they seem to made it work. So yeah. Oh, I died. I found the water. I died. There is no life in this. I don't know if people would be into that or not, but there are no lives. So in a way, it's for a yeah. Unfortunately, guys, there are no lives in my Mario game. You cannot die permanently. To be honest, there is no like. If I saw them in mini load, you could just go in these levels however you want. So that's fair. No, so this is one a remake, so it probably looks worse. Or there is more flaws, but it has a good flaw. I need to check out which version. There's for it. I swear I played it before. But this is also a beta. To be fair, this is like a test version. Play test feedback. It's only fair that they don't have the active systems fully. But this is definitely up there. I guess. I keep wall sticking too. Okay. It's. The controls are weighty, like I call it weighty because they're not heavier. It does seem the Mario in this sticks a lot, like this is sticky, it's sensitive. Kind of like Spider-Man stickiness, which is, I don't know how to feel about that. Like, he is very sensitive to sticking on stuff. I don't know if you're supposed to like get on escalate holding something. Where you're able to wall grab and stuff, right? But like, there's no way to like make him. There's nothing you do but to hold on the ledge. And it seems like he kind of glitches. Yeah, you don't like hold a button. You just if you're against a wall, that's Mario. I guess. Okay, here's an example of what I was talking about with the planet gravity guns. Like, technically it's not a planet, so honestly I don't know if it's the same thing. But something like this, where he walks up a wall, and the gravity's like adjusted, and if you jump off, he falls off. That's the big thing. That would be like the planet gravity I feel like they would do for, that Cash Shredded do for, seeing everyone's face, with curve. Back in the day, back in the good old year of 2020. This is actually pretty good though, for a... This is, like... The thing is though, I don't know what... I have a pretty good idea, like, it's... fake. Like, he just pretty much, teleported him onto another surface. He could have done like something like a trigger zone, though, and if you're in this trigger zone, it rotates the. Because if you jump twice, if you jump, depending on how high you go, he falls back. So that could be just a trigger zone too. I'm just more or less curious. This gravity is pretty good, though, to be honest. There's also green stars, like, there's green stars, there's you know, the stars all together. But I'm unsure if this is like a, if you're supposed to backcheck or you're supposed to go back and look at it. I think that's how you're supposed to do it. It's like a linear level, but you can, like 3D land, you can go back into these levels and, make sure you get everything. The transitions are really nice, yeah. Oh, this is a 2D section, okay. Yeah, it's a 2D section, actually looks pretty good, though. Though it does seem like in these 2D section, it suffers a kind of, it doesn't work as well. I personally know that we tried doing something, so sorry. There's a level we were working on seeing after 3 that was going to have 2D, right? I'm not going to say specifically what. I mean, I wouldn't make a difference because we're not doing anymore. But, Andrew, one of the playable characters, this was for, when you enter a 2D level, 2D section, because it's using a 3D controller, there's, unless you, like, manually, like, apply a lot of tweaks, something like this where he's gonna slide, or, like, pretty much be a 3D character but on the 2D plane, often has unprecedented consequences. Like, he slides away more here. I don't personally think that it's a 3D platform. I don't think that's bad. But I think it's bad for a 2D platformer. But if these sections are as short as just parts of a level, not the whole point of it, kind of like those sections in the Mario Galaxy where you, like, you know, you jump up down the gravity thing. Yeah. If it complements the level, I guess you get. I don't know, I'm just being picky. Yeah. Nice, look. Like, Mario is pretty good. Mario is pretty good. I also kind of like how that does that. You know? I'm being picky for a game that someone had to suffer making up drinks. Like Mario just died. Mario was harmed during the creation of this drink, okay? I'll be more, look, this is fun. If you guys have dreams, you should play it. Okay, I recommend it. This is just the first level. It could be, I don't know. I don't know yet. We're gonna be playing through this and see what happens. Okay, Mark? Oh, they have some. Looks like wind particles. I think there's like small wind particles. I see it faintly. That's cool. Oh no! Guys, I need to. Oh, whoa, Mario, what are you doing? Okay, there is clearly some small bugs with this version, as I said. Oh crap. So, at least comparing it. Look, he doesn't stick to platforms. And, I didn't mention this earlier, but kind of just, it's kind of like the 2D thing. He doesn't stick to platforms, and I'm worried the bounce isn't large enough. Sometimes you can just not make it to the next platform. Which has dire consequences if you fail your jump, because you keep dying. Fortunately to some degree, because there is no lives, you can just come back and do it. I don't know if he's planning to have no lives in this game, or eventually like think he wants to have the PAL version if that comes, assuming that comes out. I do really hope that he does finish this, because he is a remake, so he already knows what he's doing. You know, there's a lot of fan games out there that this as tech demos. I'm calling you out. Super Mario 64 controller tech demo version 5.0 for the DS. Looks like a DS. It's just really just the standard tech room everyone has. Make a game. It doesn't matter if it's bad. Just make the game. Don't publish it. There's just a tech room. I'm saying like I'm pointless, but like it's not much harder to make a tech room. It's not just make a game, make a level that shows that off, not just say tech demo. There's a lot of games that just do that. They say it's like they almost like Borderlands promise that they're gonna make something. A lot of people in dreams do that, which isn't bad. It's just kind of sad. I don't know. I don't know what you want me to say about that. Like. Yeah, Mario here keeps swinging left to right, down, up, down. He's gonna keep sliding. I do really like the motion and the points that they got there. I said this earlier. Wait, there's only. So is it one main star and the four like depots? Okay, so it seems like there's other things to do here. Okay. I did not know that. Well, I'll be honest. I'm probably not gonna do all those right now. I'm gonna go to the next level. So for those curious, I said at the beginning of the stream, I'm planning a stream tomorrow around 3 o'clock Central, though it's rough, you know, but I'll be playing a handbag full of games because it's my birthday tomorrow, and I should be around for that hour and a half there. Maybe longer, maybe less, I don't really know, but I said in my Discord, I have a Discord or stuff, like that, or just put in chat if you have any ideas, or something for me to stream, I'm open to ideas. Stuff. I'm just kind of winging it tomorrow. I plan on doing something tomorrow. Mario, wait. This stuff is quite. Turn off the music. What happened to the music, guys? Is that meant to be? Is that meant to happen? It's just a cloud power up. But like, it's kind of like, what happened to the logic in this world? It's just the music just shuts up. It's probably a bug. I mean, I could see him doing that. But honestly, I don't really like that. But no, this is pretty much the cloud power in the original game. It's actually pretty well implemented. With the box up first. So this is pretty much like spot on to how you would expect it to be in a Mario like gag fade. It was kind of like it. I missed some stuff. But do the clouds like... Okay, so they do eventually go away. Got it. I don't think that stores very much something there, which isn't a big thing, but if you're curious, I'm pretty sure it came with power up. It just either replaces it with like, you know, like the cloud. So there's like something like flowers or something where he dies. Yeah, mushroom, I assume you can become small and that's what that's for. But we already have a large room, I don't think it gets stuck out. Which, to be fair, isn't the end of the world, but it would be a nice thing to have. If you have like the latest item you have, like stuck. Kind of like how they did in Super Mario Brothers DS, in my opinion. Though, I'll be honest, that's like a variable thing, and I don't really know how, if this guy knows I don't know how this guy handles variables. Variables is a whole beast in dreams. It's like the Mr. Beast of dreams. But, no, variables aren't sentient, though, so no, that's not how that works. No, yeah. What am I saying? No, I couldn't make it! I don't think I'm supposed to be up here, guys. I don't think I'm supposed to be on this cloud. Yeah, I don't think there's any physics, guys. But, I'll take it. I don't want to die, so I'll take it. Yeah, I think those are like green stars. Oh, thank you, James. I might, get myself like moments on this level, but I can't, beat it, but then I'll move on to the next one. Maybe this time I'm going faster than I thought. brazos de la suada. I'll give myself like 3 more tries, honestly, on that. I think a little too much. Few more. Let's try about that. Let's see. I'm not. It's off though, you know. And if it dies, we can't like. Not as like snappy, I guess, as I say what I'm used to. It does kind of look like that mushrooms are actually kind of pointless because you don't lose your Mario, like your actual like huge Mario form, because you know it's like lives. Actually, I think I know what lives those are for. I think they're for regaining lives, technically. So if you get like damage, I think that's what that for. But it's not really conveyed. But yeah. I think they didn't want me to do that. Probably gonna give it a couple more tries and then I'm probably not. But nice I'm just. No, it's not there. I don't know. I don't think it's me. I don't think there's any delay either. It's just this Mario keeps like sliding up. Like it just isn't there. The response. It's better than a lot of other Mario games. Like I can maybe pull one up and I can tell you. Hold on. But like this Mario game I played as well and it was pretty good, but it wasn't as it wasn't as like it chose no worse. Yeah. This isn't related, but I did want to show this off real quick because it's not really a finished game, as I say. But the actual art of this game, how Mario, the 2D style they're going for, is just really good. And that reminds me of that Hello Mario, like that Hello, not Hello Neighbor, but the Hello Mario educational game they recently did for the 40th anniversary. You can get it for free if you got a Japanese eShop account, which is anyone. You can get one right now if your Switches are like cross-platform, right? But this kind of reminds me of that art style, which is actually like I think I like this a lot, just because it's unique. If they want to stay consistent, this would be interesting. A lot of people might not even think it's a Dreams game because of that. But also, the 2D controls in this game actually is really good too. I like what they're going for. It's not a full game, because I can tell you that the flag forward doesn't work. It is like a level though, but it's like, it's not there. But it's really nice. Like that flagpole doesn't do anything. I think it's stuck in the brick. But I didn't want to show that one off. The horror games, literal that. Okay. Yeah, you see, it starts to be what you would think Dreams is, and then yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna probably wrap up the stream in a moment. And let me see if I can upgrade anyone while we play this. I remember playing this game. It's pretty good. It's kind of like emulates one of those like those late 2000s MMOs or the atmosphere of it. Though it's really pretty good. Though I don't know if this game was meant for actual online. Like it was kind of like emulated PlayStation Home. But Dreams never came out with online stuff. But if it did, I feel like this person that did this would have updated it. And it would have looked really, it would have been really cool. Even it reflects the date there in time, which is good. But even if not, this is really like just a really nice like atmospheric thing to boot up. So I would say, yeah, go for it. If you have something you want to know, just mess around with. It doesn't look like anyone's on a raid, but tomorrow around 3, it'd be a little bit more after rough. But that is my plan tomorrow, is to do that. It was great doing the small stream. I really, part of me should, probably finish, or at least play through all the levels tomorrow. If I make it, especially if I'm gonna if I actually decide to go through with finishing Scene Art 2, because I only got to like the corrupted shave. I played it before, I just never finished a stream of it, playthrough of it. But I know it's bugged, so I might have to do some stuff with that. But if I'm on Dreams again tomorrow, I should really just finish the Mario game too, because I want to do that debate, but honestly, it's just the controllers aren't there. It's too difficult right now for me. But if I probably do more games tomorrow. I'm probably for the birthday stream. I want to do some kind of Persona game. I think I have an idea for what I want to do. I might do a couple of different things. Though I do want to at least go for an hour and a half tomorrow, around 30 to 4:30 Central. So if you're here, welcome, come on in. If not, I understand. But my name is Kappa, and I'll see you tomorrow. I'll see you next time. Kappa's 3, 4. Oh, 3. Oh, crap. Toxic. Nah, I'm ending stream. Oh, but I'll be back tomorrow. Be back tomorrow, guys. Yeah, I'm sorry. I'll be live tomorrow. I know you're in the Discord, I think. But yeah, just come by tomorrow and we'll be doing more stuff. like, I'm sorry. I'm tired. But yeah, have a good one, guys. My name's Kappa, and I'll see you next time. Kappa's out. Bye. Do 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 do.